Hello and welcome. It's Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, where I discuss the future of our region blessed with hydrocarbon resources. Every week, we give some time to reflecting on topics relevant to the development of the Niger-Delta and her people. Now, this episode, no different, as I'm here once again to focus on how to take this region to a more promising future. A reminder, the podcast is now sponsored by the operator of the NNPC, Renaissance Total Energies AGIP joint venture, Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited, headquartered in Port Harcourt. Thank you for joining. I'm Adedayo Elushakin. A topic for this episode is press freedom in the digital age. Now, World Press Freedom Day, celebrated annually on May 3rd, was established by the United Nations in 1993 to raise awareness about the importance of a free press and to remind governments of their duty to uphold the right to freedom and expression. Now, this day also serves as a moment to reflect on the state of press freedom around the world, to defend the media from attacks on their independence, and to pay tribute to journalists who have lost their lives in the pursuit of a story. This year's theme, Reporting in a Brave New World, the impact of artificial intelligence on press freedom and the media, focuses on the profound influence of artificial intelligence, or AI, on journalism and media. AI is transforming journalism, providing tools that enhance investigative reporting, content creation, and fact-checking. However, these advancements also bring significant risks, such as AI-generated misinformation, deepfake technology, biased content moderation, and surveillance threats to journalists. Join us as we navigate this complex terrain, uncovering the realities faced by journalists in the digital world, the impact of technology on media independence, and the ongoing battle to protect the free flow of information. We'll hear from a professional, an expert, and discuss what the future holds for press freedom in our increasingly connected world. Again, our topic on this episode of Canvas, press freedom in the digital age. And my guest is Olalekun Ige. Now, Lekon Ige is the editor of Independent Monitor newspaper. It has over 20 years cognate experience in communication, media, and public relations. Lekon, great to have you on Canvas. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Before we delve into the conversation, I must say this. For a number of years, I was on radio. And I must say, some of the best moments I had on radio were discussing with you, dissecting socio-political matters that affected not just the Niger-Delta, but not even just Nigeria, but even the world at large.
True.
And it was always a brilliant conversation with you. I learned a lot. The public learned a lot from our conversations. It's a privilege to have you here, and I look forward to this conversation as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's also a privilege to sit before you and share thoughts on the World Press Freedom Day.
A lot has been said about journalism and press freedom. It's a matter of interesting conversation over the years, in different fora across, across all kinds of perspectives or dimensions or places, locations. Why is it that crucial? Why does it seem like the press or the media or journalism holds such a crucial position in global discourse?
Well, I'm sure if you, excuse me, please, if you look at governance, especially for us in this part of the world, we practice the presidential system of government. We have the executive, we have the, excuse me, please, we have the legislature, and of course we have the judiciary. And the press has been widely regarded as the fourth estate of the realm. Fourth estate in the sense that outside of the executive, legislature, and judiciary, you probably have the press forming the fourth. It might be invisible, but the fourth happens to be the institution that is able to hold all of the three arms of government together, be able to hold them to account, represents the general interest of the society. If you are looking for a platform that is able to highlight the problems of the society, provide solution, set agenda, interview the process, investigate the process, I'm sure you find out that it is the press. And for a lot of people, they would rather prefer not to have the press because they think that the last bastion to conquer is the press. And you can look back and check the last 20, 25, 30 years, you not see that a lot of people who are in government, a lot of people who have influence are not trying to involve themselves extensively in the media, trying to have media setups, trying to influence the media, trying to create platforms that can also help them, propagate their own ideas, share their own ideas, inform the people too directly from themselves rather than going through third parties. So we find out that the press, it's so important to a better society, to hold people accountable, to help people highlight what troubles them, what fears them, whatever, anything in the society. They know that the press is at the forefront of putting this on the template and let people see it.
Ever so often, when you hear the press come up in conversations or journalism, is usually is usually connected to how the press is endangered, so to speak.
True.
Now, if the press or journalism, or let's use the word the press now, is that crucial, that's important, that suggests to me once again it wields enormous influence.
True.
If it holds this very high position and influence, how can it then be endangered? Because the position and influence implies some sort of power as well. How can it then be endangered?
Okay, I'm sure you know that a lot of people want to know the truth, right?
Exactly.
And because a lot of people want to know the truth, they also fear the truth sometimes. So I said earlier that, look, one of our basic responsibilities is to hold people to account, make them account for whatever actions or whatever activities, they carry out whilst in office, especially for government. And if you look at what essentially brings people together, what regulates the society, then it is the government, whether it is presidential system of government, the legislative system of government, whether it's even a military junta. You need something that must regulate the way and manner human beings relate every day. And government is at the forefront of regulating that. And now, in trying to regulate that, you need to carry out activities, you need to make up policies, you need to make up programs, you need to carry out a whole lot of things just to ensure that you regulate people, you ensure that they are within the bounds of law. It means that you also have to make expenditures. It means that you also have to make certain allowances. You also have to make certain provisions to be able to regulate these people. And so you have people who, once a while, shouts and say, look, we think that XYZ budgeted for certain responsibilities have not been expended. So where is the money? What happened? Or you made this promise. To what extent have you been able to fulfill that promise? You made a budget, right? And said, look, you're expecting to have XYZ in terms of income. Okay, this is how much you're going to spend in terms of expenditure. Have you been able to do that? What is the balance at the end of the day? Is it in deficit? Is it in profit? Is it in advantage? All of these put together would mean that you need to interrogate, you need to investigate, you need to carry out a whole lot of things to ensure that you bring people to account. And in bringing people to account, people who love the truth will not want the truth to be said about them. And because they don't want the truth to be said about them, then you now begin to threaten journalists. You now begin to find ways and means to coerce people, to force people to ensure that they don't tell the truth about certain public officials, even though those public officials want to hear the truth, but they don't want the truth to be said about them. And more than often not, you find out they threaten journalists. They don't even want some of these things to even be pushed out into the public space for people to know. And one of the best ways you think can go about it is to trust. Look at what's happened between Russia and Ukraine. How many journalists have been killed so far in Ukraine? Probably more than 20 journalists, have been killed. Check some parts of the world where journalists have actually been killed because they're in pursuit of trying to find out what has happened within the system.
Most countries of the world, if not every country of the world, has a constitution, written or unwritten.
True.
Now, besides that, let me just expand that a bit. It spells what the laws are, what the rules and regulations are, speaking of regulations, it puts in place regulations as well.
True.
Now, if we to also consider governments, in most countries of the world, you have the three arms. You have the executive, you have the legislature, you have the judiciary as well. They're supposed to also serve as checks on each other. You also have regulatory bodies in most countries of the world, also supposed to regulate the different arms and functions and how government functions and how it relates with the populace.
Sure.
So all of these things are designed to ensure that there's no high-handedness and things are done properly. So in spite of all of this, what is it that the press does different and is seen as a threat to those who would rather oppose the law and be flagrant about it, that all of these set up, because even the press works, under the guidance of the Constitution as well, as every citizen and organization in any state is supposed to. So what is it that the press does different that the regulatory bodies, the different arms of government, and even the Constitution itself is unable to do?
But I'm sure for the executive is the body saddled with the responsibility of administering the state. The state in this case means the country, right? Now, if you check if you check all the regulatory agencies, they are appointees of the man who is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in this case, or they are appointees of whoever is the president of any country at that point in time. So you find out that sometimes there's some inhibition stopping these regulatory agencies from performing their constitutional responsibility. We've had situations where you've had a certain regulatory agency refusing to investigate another person, probably because he's a member of the cabal, so to use that word, or probably is a member of the president's inner caucus, or somebody that is very close to somebody in power. And you see that some of these regulatory agencies are a little bit hesitant to even carry out their constitutional responsibilities. But that's completely different with the press. The press is able to investigate because you don't pay him, he's not your employee. Even in cases where they are your employees, because we have journalists who work in government-owned organizations, they're unable to do that. But then you have journalists who work with independent media organizations, and they're able to find out truly what has happened. They listen to the people, they're able to hear from the people, and of course, they're able to investigate, they're able to interrogate, they're able to walk up to some of these government officials, maybe to hear their side of the story, because one of the true essence of the press is balance, is objectivity. So in trying to do all of this, you find out that there are some things they are trying to hide, and in some cases, you have people who even work in those offices who are able to avail journalists with some of the intransigencies of these public office holders. And because they don't want to be known, they're able to avail such information to journalists. So those who occupy such offices, when they even get the details of what they have, they are shocked as to what volume of information is before the press. Then they begin to fidget and think that the best way to do this is to take the worst possible way out.
Now, the digital age has affected everything as we know it. Things are changing. Healthcare, manufacturing, as we consume entertainment or the media, everything's changed. How has it affected journalism and news reportage?
But I think the digital age has come with numerous advantages. It means that you can quickly reach the people, millions of people across the world in few seconds, in few minutes. But then it's also come with some disadvantages. Of course, fake news is one of the things that have come with the digital age. And you can see that a lot of people now try, to circulate what is clearly fake. And a lot of people are also not patient enough to find out whether this is true or not. And we can continue to encourage people, can only continue to encourage people to look for what is the truth. And to be able to get what is the truth, then it means that you need to have certain media platforms, certain organizations that you know that if they are not saying it, it's probably because it has not been said, or probably because it is not true, or probably because there is no content to drive whatever narration some people are driving, within the social media space. And, fake news is consistent with a lot of social media pages. And that's one of the major threats to journalism, because people now feel that probably journalists or the press are trying to hide certain information, and this is what they have, and they can push it out almost immediately. But more than often not, when you interrogate the background of some of those stories, you find out that there's actually no truth in it. So you find out that the advent of the digital age has had some kind of a bad influence on press freedom.
A follow up to this: what in your estimations are there or is the biggest challenge to press authenticity and freedom with this digital age?
But I think you know that because of the kind of influence the press peddles, there are now a lot of people who are not trying to stifle, who are not trying to stifle the volume, or should I say the avalanche of correct information that is available. So for as long as you have people who are trying everything humanly possible to choke, the avalanche of information, correct information that's available, then we'll continue to have people who are not trying to muzzle up what is happening, and that's a major threat to press freedom.
Now, we have, you mentioned social media a while ago. We have lots of these digital platforms, and they're springing up by the day. I mean, even that could be...
And more would come.
Exactly. Because they're even making what some describe as overnight billionaires. And these people employ other persons to work for them. And I mean, I'm sure it would be the joy of most parents around to hear that the child, for example, maybe who read computer science or studied one or learned coding by themselves, suddenly got a job with, say, X or Facebook, for example. In our climate especially, that person will probably go to church to give a testimony. So how do these digital platforms impact press freedom and the dissemination of news?
No, if we're talking about disseminating information,
Yes.
so we mean correct information. Now, there are several digital platforms doing different kind of things. But when you want to talk about news in itself, something that arises out of an event, out of an occasion, out of an activity, then it means that it has to be a correct information. It has to be newsworthy. It has to have balance. It has to be accurate. It has to be objective. There are certain foundations upon which every story is written. So if you have a digital platform that is not into hard news or soft news, you could as well easily disseminate whatever information you want to disseminate. So if, for example, you have a digital platform and it talks about probably genetics, fine. It means that you need to be able to have people who are experts in genetics to be able to talk about the kind of content you want to push out. If you are talking about aeronautical engineering, it means you need to have experts in that kind of field, to be able to talk about aeronautics, robotics, and how AI can even help influence aeronautical engineering. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes to news, either hard or soft news, it has a foundation, it has a protocol you must follow for people to believe in what you write. And when you consistently churn out what is fake, what is not original, then it means with time, people will no longer trust that platform. It will lose their patronage, it will lose their clientele, it will even lose followership in the long run. For as long as people now know that, look, such platform peddles false information.
I was a speaker some years ago at a TEDx Sport Haircut event. And I think, if I remember correctly, my what I spoke on, what I delivered had to do with that as well. And I talked about from the perspective of journalism and press and media. So we talk about how the digital age and even the AI, let's bring that in, has positives and all of that.
True.
But then again, we also identify that it has led humongously to deepfakes and massive disinformation and misinformation on a scale that we are still grappling with.
True.
And we haven't even fully comprehended yet. How can it be a good thing? Because prior to now, we were getting information. Access is easier, I do concede, but if we have the attendant negative consequences on a scale that humanity has never before seen, how can we then consider this to be a positive by any yardstick?
No, positives, yes. Positives in the sense that you can reach larger number of people in seconds than ever before in terms of what is right. in terms of what is good, in terms of what is being pushed out as a result of research, as a result of foundation, as a result of so many things. So that's on one part, what is right. Now, on what part that is wrong is what is now the major reason why so many countries are now trying to come up with certain laws to restrict certain things you push out on the social media. Now, the owners of some of these platforms are also trying to come up with as many regulations as possible to ensure that people don't push out what is not correct. But to what extent have they been able to arrest that is still difficult, at this point in time. But you find out that as more years roll by, you begin to find a lot of countries wanting to regulate the way and manner people push out certain information on the social media, because you find out that the damage fake news is doing to a lot of personalities, to a lot of countries, to a lot of brands, to a lot of products, and to a lot of people is unimaginable. And that means that more of social media regulations, stringent social media regulations will come up in the years to come to be able to arrest, especially those that have continued to constitute the negative part of the digital age.
Censorship. That's one word that comes up as well in conversations around press freedom and journalism. Before the advent of the digital age or the scale at which it is now, censorship was a major concern. But now that we have the digital age and social media platforms and all kinds of ways of disseminating information, like you said, people can get information in seconds now.
In seconds, yeah.
How is censorship affecting press freedom now? Especially, as you have even regulation in that space is at best topsy-turvy, if there is any regulation at all. It's almost like some of these platforms are left to their own devices. You had a while back when, for example, in the US, Facebook had a certain policy or position on information with the administration of Biden. Now we have Trump presidency. That policy has changed.
It has changed.
It's different now.
True.
And it seems like Facebook and these other platforms simply determine by themselves what the policy or the position should be. So how is the digital age and the advent of a lot of these platforms affecting censorship of the press or the media?
Well, I'm sure censorship is more influenced by ownership. So the owner of the platform, more than often not, censors what people can see and what people cannot see. And I said earlier that a lot more people are now interested in the press. And for as long as you have more people interested in the press, it means we are going to have increased censorship in terms of what people can see, in terms of what people can even receive as per information. And that's one of the things that's also affecting the digital age, because people now want to push out certain kind of information, and they just want people to believe only in that kind of information, whether it is right, whether it is wrong. And that's one of the influences that will be peddled by AI with time to come, because AI is just a computer system that is made to think like a human being. I think that's just what AI is all about. Something that can think the way a human being can think, and faster than even the way a human being can think. So it means that some people can begin to push out certain information, and they want the algorithm of the AI to pick up these things. So you could easily push out hate. You could easily push out bias. You could easily push out the kind of information you want people to see. Now, not any other thing, but just specific things that you want people to see. And that's censorship in a way, because you're not limiting, you're not narrowing down what people can read and what people can see and what people can even receive in terms of information. Censorship continues to be a factor in press.
It appears that what you're saying is that we have more censorship now than we've ever had before.
More will even come, because people are now trying to control information. The tendency is that the more information people have, probably the more they're able to think differently. So why not stop them from thinking so differently? Why don't we narrow down what they can think, what they can even read, and what they can even see?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It can be both good. It can be good and it can be bad. It can be good in the sense that, yes, so you can now limit the kind of false information people push out. You can now limit the way and manner people perceive certain things, bias or stereotyping. These are some of the things you can prevent. Yes, when you say censorship, but then you could also be influencing people to think only along one narrow way. So it's both good and bad.
Have the tech companies been able to help to advance the cause of press freedom, or have they taken away from it? Because you identified again that while opportunities are given for people to disseminate, ownership, like you rightly mentioned, also determines, censorship. So
Sure.
how have the tech companies improved press freedom, or have they taken away from it?
No, I think the tech companies have improved press freedom, improved the press freedom in the sense that there are now so many platforms available for the press to be able to push out information. Because we are talking about tech companies, you are talking about probably almost all of the social media outfits that you have there, from X to Facebook to WhatsApp, to a lot of social media platforms that are now available. So you can have a media house that is present on all of these platforms. That way, it means that they are now able to reach by far more people they were able to do. So you have most media houses that are now on Facebook, they are now on X, they are now on WhatsApp, they are now on Instagram. Just continue to mention all the social media platforms. So it's giving them tremendous opportunity. We even have tech companies that offer free blogging sites so that you don't need to waste so much time trying to set up your own blogging platform. They have the software already. All you need to do is just to put a name to it, and pronto, you are good to go. You can begin to push out your information. So I would rather say that the tech firms have really tried to give us so many platforms to be able to push out information. That way, we can begin to strike some kind of balance to people who on their own and on these media platforms, and they're able to push out the information most times that are not correct.
The internet was one thing. It changed everything. And then we had these social media platforms and information or video sharing platforms, the likes of YouTube and others, come on board as well. AI has brought on such a dimension that even with the advent of the internet and all of these platforms, we didn't think was possible. How has AI impacted or influenced the practice of journalism, or how is journalism employing AI today?
Well, AI will have tremendous impact on journalism. One major drawback would be that if AI can do the simple tasks that human beings can do, it means that a lot of media houses can begin to work with less number of people. And there'll be lots of jobs, right? AI taking over certain core responsibilities of what some journalists can do. But then AI won't be able to do everything for you. You still need people to be able to work within the dictates of what press is all about, the basic rules of where, what, how, when, and all of that. The principles of how to balance, how to be objective, how to be correct, how to be concise, and all of that. AI will offer some of these things. But then, like I said earlier, you can have people who can now begin to push out certain narratives about certain things, and AI picks up these algorithms and is able to supply such information to certain media houses, which may actually not be true. So even as a media house, as you continue to employ the use of AI, you also have to be circumspect in the kind of information that is being supplied to you, because you also need to have, a second chance to verify whatever AI is submitting to you. AI more than often not can just summarize certain things for you, but what you need might be deeper than what AI is giving you. So in as much as it has some advantages in terms of press, then it will also have disadvantages in terms of job loss, in terms of inability to be accurate to the point that you want as a media house. It's a balance, if you ask me.
A lot of the information making the rounds these days are AI-generated content. Some of them come from a good place and contain, the right information. A lot of it, however, is false. What are the associated risks of AI-generated content?
Well, I think it's one is that it can defame, in the sense that it could supply wrong information about somebody. And that is the algorithm that AI has picked up. And that's why I said earlier that, look, even when you have the information from AI, you still need to be able to independently investigate what AI has given you. You need to be certain that it's correct. Otherwise, you could be sending out a wrong information. And that's why I said, no matter what AI is giving you, as a journalist or for the press, you still need to have a second chance to look at what it has supplied you. That way, you ensure that you're on a balance. You're not looking, you are not going to get yourself involved in trouble, or you're not going to get yourself helping to spread what is clearly a false narrative.
How can journalists leverage AI to ensure that their reporting is balanced and factual?
Well, I think for any journalist to use AI, for example, you want to ask something on a particular personality, and AI generates whatever it has about such personality and submits it to you. It means that while looking at what is before you, you also need to be able to read through correctly to be sure that this is correct, and make your own independent investigation. If you want to say, you want to write about a profile of somebody, AI has supplied something to you, I think it's also natural that you reach out to that person or find out more about that person before you can say for certainty, this is all of what you need, or this is the correct information about this person. I think that's the best way we can work with AI at the moment.
In commemoration of World Press Freedom Day, an annual commemoration, we're discussing press freedom in a digital age on this episode of Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. My guest is Olalekun Ige. We'll go for a break. We'll return shortly. The discourse will continue. Please stay with us.
In the heart of our journey, where the sun touches the earth and the wind whispers through the trees, a new chapter unfolds. A chapter where energy illuminates more than just bulbs. It lights up minds. A chapter of unity, a coming together with a common goal to energize futures and illuminating lives. In classrooms, young dreams evolve, inspired by the promise of a brighter tomorrow fueled by available energy. Small businesses flourish, becoming seeds of prosperity. Energy that empowers and is catalyst for growth and change. The future is energy. So, let's light up the path to a sustainable future together. Energy for you, me, and the world at large. Energy for people and planet. We are Renaissance.
Welcome back to the Canvas Niger-Delta Roundtable, brought to you by Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited. I'm Dio. Once again, in commemoration of World Press Freedom Day, we're discussing press freedom in the digital age. My guest is a seasoned professional in the field, Olalekun Ige. Lekun, once again, great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Ethics. Every profession, every industry has them or claims to have them, but I'm not sure that there are many professions that emphasize ethics more than. I don't think there's even any that emphasizes it more than it is in the media or journalism or the press space. What ethical considerations should journalists place ahead of them when employing artificial intelligence or even practicing their craft in this digital age?
Well, I'm sure you know that I said earlier that we have certain basic principles that guide us. I talked about being objective. You are not impugning anything into whatever you do. Your personal opinion does not matter. You are not expected to express any personal opinion. Whatever you are pushing out must be as a result of investigation, as a result of hearing from people. You must be objective. You must have balance. Somebody does not tell you, oh, Mr. A embezzled 100 million, and you go ahead and say Mr. A embezzled 100 million. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to ensure that there's a balance. So what's the balance? Somebody accuses Mr. A of embezzling money. Your responsibility is to get across to Mr. A. Look, this is what I have before me. Is it true? Is it not the truth? Mr. A is expected to state his side of the story. At the end of the day, you may even find out that Mr. A has no blame whatsoever. So the ethics of journalism places that responsibility on you. It is also not your responsibility to help inflame, a certain scenario. So we've had what's been going on in the country about a certain ethnic group being involved in kidnapping, murder, rape, and all of that. It's not your responsibility as a journalist to help inflame whatever that is going on. A crime has been committed, and you must say a crime has been committed. There's no need to profile any particular ethnic group for rape, for murder, for drug peddling, and all the rest. If a Nigerian is caught abroad, say a Nigerian was arrested abroad, there's no need for you to say it's from one part of the country, it's another part of the country. You need to help have a balance in whatever you do to ensure that people don't go away with the wrong information. You need to ensure that what you are reporting actually happened. It's not an imagination. You didn't just wake up and imagine a story and push it out there. It must be as a result of what truly happened. So you see that we have certain basic foundations upon which we must build every story. We must build everything that we are pushing at. And that's why I said, if you are looking for what is right, if you are looking for what is correct, if you are looking at what is strife in the society, then there are certain media houses that you can easily go and visit their site and find out, have they reported it? Is it true? What balance are you getting? And all the more than often on, you won't find any serious media organization or any press organization pushing out the wrong thing.
Now, digital online stalking or harassment or cyber stalking is one of the challenges we have to face or contend with generally with the progress or the advancements we're making in the online space. Are journalists on the receiving end of this as well?
But I think you hardly find any responsible journalist being involved in cyber stalking and all of that stuff. I doubt whether you find any responsible. And when I mean a journalist, I mean somebody who's gone through the four walls of a school, somebody who knows the basic principles, the basic foundation upon which every story is built. I doubt whether you find a journalist or even involved in blackmail, online blackmail, trying to blackmail people.
Maybe not in the perpetration of it, but how about in the receiving end?
Whether journalists have been at the
stalking or online harassment?
Of course, you've had situations where a journalist publishes a story, maybe about a certain personality, and the personality now employs people. Of course, this is easy to recruit people who now go behind to now say, no, the story written by Olalekan is not true. Olalekan is being paid by the enemies of the personality, Of course, we've been at the receiving end of all of this stuff. It's normal. It's part of the hazards of the job, where you publish the truth about somebody and the person feels that one of the best way to whittle down, what you've published is to employ people, you understand, who now begin to try and puncture holes in whatever story. That's normal, for any journalist. I'm sure a lot of us have been at the receiving ends of people being recruited to counter whatever we have published. Of course, that happens.
Do we also have examples, especially in our climate, of journalists exploring, the online platforms to carry out investigations and also disseminate information that have had significantly profound impacts on our societies?
Well, we've had a series of investigations that have had profound effect, on the society. And that's why I said, look, if there is one thing that certain cabal, when I say cabal, and I'm looking at those who are in positions of authority, if there is any platform, they seek to want to control, is to be able to control what the press, is talking about. But it's looking a little bit difficult because they can't completely choke whatever that is coming about. You've seen that as a result of a lot of investigations. Recently, we had some organizations talking about institutions, having made some cut out of the recently approved education loan, to students. And you could see the way and manner the media has reported it. There has not been a backlash. And some of the organizations are beating a retreat and say, look, we never said that this money, is being cut, from what the students are getting and all of that. So we've had several instances like that where our investigations have made changes in the society.
We have some countries in the world that have very strict policies that affect the digital online space, censorship, if you will. And at different times, maybe similar things there've been attempts to replicate similar things in the Nigerian space. How do journalists in those climes, how are they able to function and still espouse the truth? And especially in Nigeria as well, where even though we've not gone full-blown censorship yet, it's been reported and it appears that efforts are being made to direct us or steer us in that direction. With the cyber stalk, all kinds of cyber, stalking laws and all of that, either being enacted or being proposed and all of that. How are journalists able to carry out their trade in the midst of all of this?
So there are several avenues to be able to do that. Remember, Nigeria is not in isolation. Nigeria is part of the world. And there are several platforms through which you can send stories, even if the Nigerian media space does not want to publish. There are several online platforms that are available for you to submit your stories to. They do their own independent checks. And of course, they publish. So there are several platform through which you can publish stories. Even particular media is not interested, probably because of ownership or political leaning, of such a media house. There are several other platforms through which you can push out this information. For as long as you are trustworthy, for as long as you are reliable, there are platforms through which you can push out these stories.
Does the law protect journalists in Nigeria who are employing the digital space to inform the citizens or the people?
The extent of protection from the law will be under the common laws, right? So for a journalist, if you have a story, you publish a story about somebody and the person is contending it and is using maybe security to harass you and all of that, one of the best things to do is to encourage the person to go to the court of law. Go to court of law. If you feel you have been defamed or your character has been impugned upon or something, approach a formal court, and at that point in time, we'll go through the certain laws that have protected the journalist. We have the law that protects you from not naming your source. If you are in contention with any story whatsoever, you can as well go to court. If you go to court, then we know how to handle the matter from there. We have certain laws that protect the journalists from carrying out their response in the discharge, of their responsibilities. Yes, we do have.
But reportedly, especially in the Nigerian space, we've had journalists or media practitioners who have suffered untold, and many might even say unjust hardships because of individuals lashing out due to stories that they may have reported employing digital space and all of that. And even though some of them may have been exonerated eventually, but it takes nothing away from what they've had to suffer unjustly, I might add once again, simply because they reported a story.
Yeah, now you can only translate that to the judicial system we have in the country, because the only logical way you can ventilate whatever grievance you have as anybody is to go to the court of law. But of course, there are times when you have people of influence who employ the service of security agents to unilaterally and unjustly to sometimes lock up the journalist, arrest him, get him tried or appear before a court of law. From court of law, is remanded in prison and all of that. We've had that even throughout the military junta under the civilian administration. We've had some of these things, and the parent body, which is the Nigerian Union of Journalists, has always come out to defend, these journalists take up. We've even had situations where lawyers have volunteered pro bono to defend journalists who have written what they consider to be good, and they are just being unjustly victimized. We've had lawyers who've come up pro bono to say, look, we are ready to defend these journalists, and others. We can continue to encourage the state to enact more stringent laws that protect the journalists. Remember, too, that the operators of the state are also very wary when they have some of these things. They are thinking ahead and saying, look, what if we enact these laws? What will make these laws available? Are we not handing over, the remaining part of the powers that we have to these journalists who can do and undo? So you have some of these balances that happen, truly.
Ethics are good for any profession, especially in the media space, in journalism. True. Ethics should be held high above everything else. But even in the practice of traditional journalism, sometimes journalists may have to, skirt the line a bit, in a bit to truly deliver on what they're required to inform the people.
True.
the digital space has brought on new hurdles, new experiences, new challenges, if you will.
Sure.
Now, how do digital journalists, especially, or what ethical dilemmas do they have to contend with in ensuring that they're able to do their jobs properly?
I think the ethical standards are the same, whether online, whether traditional. The ethics remain the same. The foundations upon which you should build your story remain the same. You could say, look, some journalists may have certain leanings, maybe out of pity for somebody they think they are friendly with, maybe out of pity for the kind of political leaning, they have. They may decide to withhold certain things in terms of what they push out there. But in terms of ethics of what you are meant to do, in terms of the basics of everything you are meant to do, it remains the same. Whether digital, whether traditional, the ethics remain the same. You must write what is right. It's not a conjecture. There must be a balance. It must be concise. It must not be misleading. You are not writing to inflame, to cause bodily harm to people across religious lines, across ethnic lines, and all of that. The ethics remain the same, whether offline or online.
Technology is constantly emerging. And even though we have quite a bit right now, which we're still struggling to deal with, I remember an expression you've used several in this conversation, more will still come. So what emerging technologies do we suppose might have profound impact on press freedom and the practice of journalism in the future or even the near future?
I think what would be the greatest threat at the moment would be AI. AI is still developing, even in some countries where AI is being widely used. I think we are still at the periphery, in Nigeria, especially maybe in developing countries. We are still at the periphery of even understanding what AI is all about. I'm sure a lot of people across Nigeria are yet to even come to grasp with what AI can do and what AI cannot do. And one of the best ways to be able to arrest that, even as more will come, is to begin to strengthen our laws, is to make our laws more dynamic to respond, to the dictates of the time, so that people who are even the ones enacting these laws, do they even have the understanding of what AI is all about? Because they too need to understand what AI is all about, what it can do, and how they can come up with legislation that at least protect Nigerians and the rest of us from these technological advancements that will come. We do not know what will come after AI, but I think AI is the greatest, threat, at the moment.
The international community, because the perspectives that we've shared on press freedom, practice of journalism, is not restrictive to the Niger-Delta or Nigeria for that matter. It's an international phenomenon. What steps or what efforts and can the international community make to ensure press freedom, the advent of or the progress being made with digital space?
I know what the international community can do. One is to continue to advocate for the protection, of journalists, of the press, wherever they may be across the world. I think there's this common thing that even during the war, you don't kill medical personnel because they are useful to both sides, especially in treating the injured. I think the journalists, should be protected. There should be more laws, more stringent laws that seek to protect journalists in the course of exercising their responsibilities to the society. We should provide more avenues, for journalists to be able to thrive, to be able to do their jobs, especially in terms of legislation, especially in terms of policies, especially in terms of programs, especially in terms of things that seek to make, the press better and be able to deliver to the society. We can look on the international community to be to do more of that. UNESCO has come up with the idea of having a World Press Freedom Day. That's a major landmark that seeks to tell the world, for the world to know at least these people exist. These are the kind of responsibilities they carry out, and what more we can do to ensure that we continue to get better from what we are from them.
When World Press Freedom Day was started, we probably didn't have the internet then.
True.
And AI...
Well, it wasn't as widely used as this.
Yes, and AI at the time possibly was unthinkable. But by the vast majority of human beings, I'm quite certain that even as far back as then, there were those who foresaw the advent of artificial intelligence, but it was not in public use. So that said, Is World Press Freedom Day? Has it come to terms? And the conversations we're having now, have we come to terms with our current realities and the complexities of journalism or a free press, pardon me, in this day and age? And what further steps can we take to combat censorship and other associated challenges of journalists?
I think it's to continue to deepen, the roots of press, for people to get better understanding why press is necessary, with UNESCO declaring 3rd of May every year as World Press Freedom Day. It's part of what will deepen the value of the press, to the society. Is to continue to deepen laws that will protect the press, continue to highlight issues that will promote freedom of press. Censorship may not be completely wiped off. I've said that censorship will be influenced by ownership, will be influenced by certain laws that have to do with cyber crime, about cyber policy, cyber protection. A lot of people, censorship may not be completely wiped off, but then we can deepen the way and manner we ensure that we pass out information, correct information for that matter, and for those who hold the reins of power, for those who are in government, to understand that press is critical to the success of any administration, and that press exists to help promote the good of the society. They are not in enmity with those who occupy offices, various offices, across the length and breadth of every strata of the society, for them to understand that, look, press is very important to their survival and to the betterment of the society.
All of the work that the press does, maybe there could be several angles to it, but primarily, I suppose, it is to put together and provide information to be disseminated to the public.
Yeah.
The public consumes it. Does the public then have any role to play as far as ensuring press freedom and responsible journalism? And if so, what is the role of the public?
Of course, remember that most members of the public end up being those that hold the reins of government. So it means that if they've been able to get information, they've been able to get enlightenment, to be entertained, to be educated, to be informed from all of what we do, even as members of the society. It means that whenever they have the opportunity to be in any position, they should be able to know that the press is important to the society, and they should be part of the people that will be advocating, for the good of journalists. They should be part of the people advocating for better press freedom. They should be part of the people advocating that we have better laws, more stringent laws that seek to promote press freedom, that seek to promote the works of the journalists, because they are members of the society. They are direct beneficiaries. Whenever they have problems, they call on the press to be able to help ventilate their grievances, their issues, before those who have their ears to be able to do whatever they want to do. So they know that the press is important. So as members of the society, continue to call on your legislators, continue to call on those who hold executive positions to do more for press and for the greater good of the society.
Media literacy. What exactly does that even mean? The concept media literacy, and what does it play in protecting press freedom and ensuring an informed populace?
Of course, media literacy just simply means that people need to understand what media is all about. You actually need to understand what media is all about. That's just media literacy. What does it do? What is their usefulness, to the society? And once you're able to determine that, they understand that they're actually very important to the progress, to the growth, to the development of any society. And once you're able to do that, then you can begin to talk to the people. Then people can understand why you actually exist.
Do the people themselves need to have media literacy?
Absolutely, because if they have the understanding of what the media is all about, then they're in a position to better advocate for the good of the media.
What improves media literacy, especially for the larger public?
The process of informing the people, what platforms are available to inform the people. Then it means that we need to be able to ensure they have better understanding of what they hear every day. And I'm happy that you have a lot of media houses now who now have opportunities for people to ask questions, for people to be able to relate to them. That wasn't available 10, 15, 20 years ago. So you have a lot of media platforms now that now engages with the people, they hear from the people, and they're able to tell them what they want to hear.
Look, I'm happy World Press Freedom Day.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for the great work that you do and the other colleagues who are as circumspect as you are.
Thank you very much.
But that's it for this episode of Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable in commemoration of World Press Freedom Day. We've discussed press freedom in the digital age. My guest has been a seasoned practitioner, Lekon Ege, editor, Independent Monitor. Lekon, thank you for your time once again.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited. Thanks for being a part of it. I'm Adid Dayo Elishakin. Bye for now.